Welcome to this online course, Development Economics 2. We are discussing the first unit on demography and development. So in this slide, if you focus on the top right quadrant, you will see the aging world, a portrait of aging world, which is happening persistently for almost all the countries. The average age is rising, right? So, and in this slide, if we focus on the down right quadrant, we will see the overall increase in population growth, which is happening all over the world. And if we focus on the bottom left quadrant, we'll see a GIF on how the age structure is changing. We have discussed it already in the module 1 and 2, especially in module 2, how the age structure and the dominant age structure is changing towards the upward region. So, right, so maximum number of people are coming from higher age group, right? So let's move on. Now, what we learned in this lecture. So in this lecture, we are going to first of all do a quick recap of module 1 and 2, whatever we have studied in module 1 and 2. And next we are going to discuss the concept of median age and change in the worldwide age structure and deeper issues in dependency ratio, right? So first of all, let us conduct a quick recap of whatever we have done so far. In the module 1, we started with definitions of development, right? We have provided Amartya Sen's definition of development and other definitions of development. Also, we tried to talk about the issues of underdevelopment, features of underdevelopment. We tried to also connect the issues of development with demography. And then we provided key concepts and definitions of demography, such as definitions of birth rate, death rate, total fertility rate, etc. Also, we have provided country-wide comparisons. We have taken many country studies and we are going to take many country studies in our analysis. So, other than this, in the module 2, we have talked about population pyramid. We have used the global population pyramid to talk about how the age structure is changing all over the world. We also, while talking about the change in age structure, we have taken many country studies such as countries like Japan, India, China, and countries of Africa, right? We have talked about Nigeria, Niger, such countries, all right? We have also defined dependency ratio. What is dependency ratio? The simple most definition of dependency ratio goes like this, that the dependent population, number of people who are dependent, which are children and adolescent up to age 15 and plus elderly population, divided by the number of people in the working age group. So that was the simple most idea of dependency ratio. Now in this lecture we are going to go deeper in the analysis of dependency ratio, etc. Let us take the first question in this lecture, which is a quick digression to statistics. Why statistics? Because we need some of the basic concepts of statistics. So here, and I would urge you to go back and study the chapter Central Tendency. And the question we are taking is the very basic one, which is can you define mean, median, and mode? Okay, so now let us begin the discussion with a quick digression to statistics and with basic statistical concepts such as mean, median, and mode. Now, while talking about mean, first of all, let us take mean. When we say mean, here we imply arithmetic mean. There are arithmetic mean, harmonic mean, and geometric mean. Let us here, for the simplicity, consider arithmetic mean. What is arithmetic mean? So let us try to understand the definition of arithmetic mean, which is which is the simple average, which is basically simple average. Let us take the variable x, and suppose it can take observations like x1, x2, x3 and up to xn. So, n number of observations, right. So, the simple definition or the arithmetic mean, the equation of arithmetic mean will be x star is equal to, if x star is the average or arithmetic mean, is equal to x1 plus x2 plus dot 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 plus up to xn whole divided by small n. That is going to give us the arithmetic mean, so, or the simple average, right. So, I hope this is sufficient to recap this idea. All of you actually know it perhaps. Now, let us go back and let us also try to understand and go back to the recap of the idea of median. What is median? Median is nothing but the middlemost value. Median is actually dividing the whole entire observations into two equal parts. That is the importance of median, right. How to understand median, how to calculate or get to the median. Suppose this number of observations, what we have already said, n number of observations. Now, if this is odd, there are odd number of observations. If this is odd small n, right, for that median value can be found by obtaining n plus 1 by 2 of that observation. And now, if the small n, the number of observations is even number of observations, then we cannot get a unique median value. There what we can do, we can take any value in between n by 2th observation or n by 2 plus 1 number of observation, right. So, that is how we can obtain median value. Now, what is mode? Mode is the value of the variable having the highest frequency, right. Mode is what? Mode is that variable which is having the highest frequency, that is mode. Now, in this mean median, while discussing mean median and mode, why we are discussing mean median and mode, and which one would be more appropriate for our purpose. Now, for that we have to compare mean and median, right. So, and in that comparison we must point out one problem of taking mean, which is mean is susceptible. Mean can be affected by existence of outlier or very extraordinary values, or the values of, if extreme values exist in the observation, that may affect mean but not the median, right. So, existence of the outlier value, existence of such values which are far from the average, that may affect mean but not median. So, in our analysis here we are going to take median, right. So, we are going to use the concept median, and we are going to employ this concept in our analysis of population, right. So, moving on, we are going to discuss now, so far we have discussed why median, and now we are going to apply this to our concept, our demographic theory, and we are going to analyze the concept of median age. What is median age? Median age is a single indicator of the age distribution of a population. It is the age midpoint of population. Median age is the age midpoint of a population. It is dividing the whole population into two equal groups. So, if we consider the global median age, that is somewhere around 30 years. So, global population can be divided into two equal groups. One is more than 30, another is less than 30, right. And if we consider here country studies, country-wide experiences and variations, Japan's median age is highest, which is touching almost 50, right, 50. Japan is having the highest median age, and a country like Niger is possessing median age among the lowest, which is around 15. So, such is the difference in the median age all over the world. Now, Countries with lower median age tend to have higher population growth rates. So actually what is happening here, lower income countries in which median age is low, there one issue is that huge number of people are residing in the young age group. So population growth rate also tends to be very high, right? So now let us consider this diagram about median age over time. So here we are comparing over time different countries' experiences regarding median age. As we already know that Japan's median age is the highest and it is going to be the highest as per the projection of the future. So Japan is the highest, and then UK, then we have UK, United Kingdom, then we have China, United States, Brazil, India, and at last Nigeria, some of the African countries, right? India is comparatively younger in this regard. India, the difference between Japan and India is quite substantial, and there is a substantial difference between China and India, right? So India is somewhere in between. Now next, moving on to an interesting relationship between median age versus births per woman, right? So here, as we can see this diagram, we can observe that there is a negative relationship between median age and number of births per woman, right? In this regard, as the relationship is negative, Japan is having one of the highest, and actually the highest median age, and in Japan, number of births per woman is also very low, very low. And if we consider countries like Nigeria, Mali, Niger, these African countries are actually possessing very low median age and very high number of birth per woman, right? And in this regard, once again, if we think of India, India is somewhere in between and quite closer to Japan, we can say. India's median age is not very high, and also number of births per woman is also not very high. So which is a kind of a good outcome, we can say. Next, moving on. So for some of the key points about median age, we can point out that higher income countries such as North America, Europe, and some of the countries in Asia, they tend to have a higher median age. Also, countries with lower median age tend to have high population growth rates, right? We have already tried to explain why this is so. Countries with lower median age they are having high number of people in the young age group, so they are in the children producing age group. So that's why population growth rate tends to be very high in these countries. And lower income countries tend to have a lower median age because they have a younger population. So high fertility rates here also mean they have larger population growth rates. Let us take another question here, the second question of this lecture. From the analysis so far, what do we gather in terms of future of age structure, in which way the world is heading to? So we have taken the question, the second question of this lecture is that which way the world is moving in terms of age structure. So for that, let us consider these figures about different countries and continents in all over the world. This will make it clear the which way the world is heading to. So we have taken population for the total population for the age for the year 2022, then 2030, then 2050. So a projection has happened of the regarding the world population, and these figures are telling different countries and continents total figure in terms of population, right? Now, more importantly, this table is about country ranking regarding population and what we are now and what is going to happen or future projection we are trying to talk about here, right? So here we can make one very important point that India by 2050 and before that also, actually India is going to take over China, and India is right now, please understand, right now China is in the rank 1 and India is in rank 2 in terms of total population. And by 2050, India is going to take over China and India is going to be the number 1 country in all over the world in terms of population, right? Moving on. So the question, so to give a full answer to the question about which way the world is heading to, so and which way, how the age structure is evolving all over the world, we can observe, we can point out that all over the world aging is happening. Aging is a real thing, aging is happening, and the number of elderly people, proportion of elderly people in the overall population is rising all over the world. And from this chart, we can easily identify that in the poorer countries, in the poorer areas such as sub-Saharan Africa and some parts of Asia, we can observe, if we focus on the last column, 2050, about the future projection, we can find out that in the poorer areas, the proportion of elderly people is relatively very low, right? Such as in sub-Saharan Africa and some other areas. But in the richer countries, richer continents, North America, Europe, in such richer areas, the proportion of elderly, which is the people in the 65 plus age group, this proportion is going to be very high, more than 20%, more than 23 to 25%, something like that. So that's a clear-cut picture about the way world is heading to in terms of age structure, right? So this map is also showing us the evolution of age structure and how it is changing, right? The 65 plus population, where their concentration is high and where low, that is depicted by this map. Now once again, take another question here. What matters more for dependency, age or labor participation? So the third question in this lecture, in the module 3, we have taken about the dependency ratio, right? Which is more important, the age or something else, labor participation, etc. So far, please remember, please try to recollect that we have talked about, in the last lecture, we have talked about dependency ratio, the simple dependency ratio, which is in the numerator, we take the number of dependents divided by the number of people in the working age group, right? That's the simple most dependency ratio. But while talking about this dependency ratio, we must keep in mind that there are important cultural factors at work. So that leaves us with such questions. If we consider cultural factors such as the retirement age, right? Postponing work for education, role of women in the labor force, such issues actually vary from country to country, right? So that is why just taking those numbers of dependent divided by number of people in the working age group may not give us the accurate measure about dependency ratio. So what we are doing here, we are basically going a step deeper, one step deeper in analyzing and understanding the concept of dependency. Moving on, so as we move deeper, one step deeper in understanding dependency ratio, the actual dependency, so that gives us another concept which is labor force dependency ratio, LFDR. What do we mean by LFDR? By LFDR, we mean that it is showing the number of people participating in the labor force relative to those not in the labor force. What do we mean when we say participation? Participation in this context is defined as people working or actively searching for work. So participation, while talking about LFDR, participation means people who are actually working or actively searching for work. That means participation. And we can observe that as we take LFDR, so we can observe that in countries like in countries of European Union or countries like UK, United Kingdom, and in such countries, we can observe that this concept of LFDR is also changing over time, right? And it gives us a nuanced picture about dependency. So let us try to understand this nuanced picture by considering this diagram of UK. We can find out in this diagram that the simple age dependency ratio is higher, considerably higher than the labor force dependency ratio. So the actual dependency measure we may not get from the simple dependency ratio, and this diagram is also showing a projection what can happen in the future, that also. So similar diagram we can also consider for France. There also we can see in such European countries that simple age dependency ratio stays higher than the LFDR, right? Which is telling us that the simple dependency ratio may not give us the actual idea about dependency. Now, while continuing with this analysis of dependency ratio, that this LFDR is actually telling us that we may not worry much about the simple dependency ratio, what we can obtain, what the measure simple dependency ratio give us. That may be very high, but we may not be worried about that, because we may consider the actual picture can be obtained from LFDR. Moving on. So composition, this chart is giving us composition of the labor force and share of older workers in different countries. So countries are grouped in three ways. There are three groups: developing, emerging, and developed countries. So this chart is summarizing clearly that number of elderly people in the workforce is quite high, very high in the developed countries in comparison to the developing countries. In developing countries, number of elderly people in the workforce is considerably low. Why this is the case? We are going to find out that in the upcoming lectures. Now let us consider the case study of Japan. We have introduced the discussion about Japan in the last lecture, and in continuation to that, we are going to talk about Japan because it is possessing the highest median age and number of elderly people, and the proportion of elderly people in the population is also very high. Now, if we while talking about Japan, we must mention here that around 1960s, the elderly population, the proportion of elderly population was around 6% or so, which is now became more than 20% in Japan, right? And the growth rate was also very high in 1960, but that growth rate, GDP growth rate or growth of output in Japan, has slowed down in the recent past. Now, the question is there a relationship between the demographic factors and the output growth of a country? Now, to give us some kind of a relief regarding the demographic factors, it has been found that the contribution of demographic factors to the slowing down of the economy is very low. Rather, decline in the labor productivity in Japan in the recent years or decades is actually responsible for the lowering of the output growth rate in Japan. So with that, we are going to conclude this lecture with the take-home points. So the take-home points are that median age is a very useful concept, number one. Number two, second point is the world is aging towards the elderly people. Number of elderly people are going to rise all over the world. And number three, labor force dependency ratio is a better understanding, can provide us better understanding regarding the dependency. Thank you.